UK on an EY degree apprenticeship in digital and technology, and earn a salary working with exciting businesses while studying towards a degree. Don't let the future pass you by. Get involved. For more information and to apply, search EY Digital Apprentice.
If you're collecting your prescription, don't assume you can claim it for free. Not all benefits entitle you to free prescriptions. And if you claim when you're not entitled, you could face a penalty charge of up to £100. Thankfully, there's a simple way to find out if you should be paying. Search Check Before You Tick online and use our eligibility checker to find out if your benefits mean you can claim for free. Or you can ask your pharmacy team. So always remember to check before you tick. This was brought to you by the NHS.
It's never nice missing out. But millions are doing just that by having a current account that doesn't pay them any interest on their hard-earned money. TSB is here to help. They offer interest to all their Plus account customers for no monthly fee. So if you're one of the millions of people who are missing out, talk to TSB. Terms and conditions apply.
Searching for a more memorable short break? Fly from London Heathrow to Cork from $55.99 each way as part of a return trip with Aer Lingus. Step off the plane and into a warm welcome in Cork. Surround yourself with breathtaking coastal views, soak up the culture of Cork City, or head to the colourful town of Kinsale and indulge in the best seafood around. Smart enjoys a short break in Ireland. Smart flies, Aer Lingus. Book now at aerlingus.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
Welcome back. You're watching Squawk Box, live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Squawk Box. We've been watching the U.S. equity futures, and they've been a little weaker this morning. Actually, moved off the lows pretty substantially. Yesterday, you saw the markets up pretty sharply as we heard 4 Dow components reporting just in the morning hours before the market started. That pushed the markets to up over 230 points yesterday. Right now, the Dow futures are indicated down by about 38 points, but we do have earnings season and more to come this morning, including Bank of America, which is going to be out in the next 15 to 20 minutes. S&P futures right now down by about 5 points. The NASDAQ off by 13.
And some news from the Las Vegas Strip. MGM Resorts announcing 2 deals expected to bring in billions in cash. Here's what's happening. It is selling its Circus Las Vegas property for $825 million to an affiliate of Phil Ruffin, who's the owner of Treasure Island. The head of the MGM's board real estate committee said the company wants to make sure, quote, if and when the next recession comes, we have a fortress balance sheet. Now, MGM also formed a joint venture with Blackstone to acquire MGM's Bellagio real estate and lease it back to MGM. The deal values the Bellagio property at $4.25 billion. So,
you know, for years,
it's a very interesting decision. I mean, one is just raising cash for a hotel that I'm sure is not their bread and butter.
Long term, what would you do as a casino operator in Vegas? Long term, I mean, they've tried Circus, kids, pools, amusement parks, but New Jersey has passed Nevada in gambling revenue. What would you do in how do you get people out there? You got to bring Celine out.
That's what you do.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to,
because you can. It's going to be legal everywhere, which is scary. And you know,
but don't you
smoking? But if you throwing bongs and gambling everywhere,
the high end of what's going on in Vegas
and mushrooms, probably
there's more revenue now, if you can believe it, on the F&B, on the food and beverage than there is even on the the tables.
Yeah.
When you say F&B like that, it sounds like you own a restaurant or something. F&B. That was impressive for me.
Better than, never mind.
Yeah. F&A.
Coming up when we return, I don't know where this is all going this morning. Streaming wars heating up.
We're going to talk about the elevator.
Set to report after the bell today, and we are less than a month away from the launch of Disney Plus. What should investors do? We're going to discuss that next. And then later, you don't want to miss our Squawk Newsmaker of the Morning, head of Calibra, David Marcus. We're going to talk about this week's big setback for Facebook's digital currency and where it goes from here. Stay tuned. You're watching Squawk right here on CNBC.
Johnson & Johnson plans.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Chase the sun with TUI to over 40 long-haul destinations. Explore the beautiful beaches of Jamaica, sip margaritas in Mexico, or see the many wonders of Asia. And until the 26th of October, enjoy £150 off per booking. When you fly with us, we'll take you there on one of our state-of-the-art Dreamliner planes. TUI, we cross the T's, dot the I's, and put you in the middle. T's and C's apply. Minimum spend £1,200 and available on selected holidays. See website for details. Atoll protected.
Can I have chemo at home?
It's only suitable for a couple of types of
cancer.
When you search one question about cancer, you end up with millions of results which contradict each other. For clear and uncomplicated information, come to Cancer Research UK. Visit us online or give us a call on 0808 800 40 40. Cancer Research UK. Together, we will beat cancer.
Carl's All Change Casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school, tears all over her face.
Daddy,
She says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat, but not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch, a dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range, Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
The Peugeot Professional Van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional Vans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
And to say happy birthday, we're giving you a pair of award-winning Silver Galaxy Buds.
But it's not my birthday till June.
No, but it's ours. 10 years ago, we launched our first Galaxy smartphone. And to celebrate, we're giving customers who purchase any Galaxy S10, Note 10 or A90 5G the chance to claim a pair of amazing wireless Galaxy Buds.
Wow, and I didn't get you anything.
Get the latest Samsung Galaxy smartphone now at your local O2 shop or o2.co.uk. Offer available on purchases made by the 23rd of October 2019 and claimed online within 30 days. T&C supply.
Friendly TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. Don't forget, NFL lives right here on TuneIn. Tomorrow, we've got Thursday night football. Chiefs, Broncos. And kickoff, 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
It's about developing, and it's not all the time that you just come in here and have a bunch of, we're young and we're building back up, and there's going to be some Hall of Famers on our team later on.
Teams are getting ready, and if you want to catch it, make sure to follow your favorite team. Either favorite Chiefs or Broncos, or look for NFL. It's your TuneIn Sports Update.
Welcome back to Squawk Box this morning. Disney unveiling its list of movies and shows coming to its streaming platform, Disney Plus, next month. The lineup dropping the same week as Netflix earnings, which will be reported after the closing bell today. Joining us right now to discuss whether this is an inflection point in the streaming wars, Matt Blank, Director of Cumulus Media and former Chairman and CEO of Showtime. It's nice to see you this morning.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
So do we think this is an inflection point? What are we going to hear today?
I think it's a pre-inflection point. It's pre-season. The amazing thing to me about all of these new streaming services, the amount of time that is spent talking about them here in the press, none of them have launched yet. They're all press releases. They're all PowerPoint presentations. We really have to give these services a time to get centered in the marketplace. So I don't really think it's an inflection point when Disney launches. The inflection point may be 2 years from now, 3 years from now.
But hasn't the inflection point already happened in that Apple, Disney, everybody's already started paying up for the content because all of this stuff has to get created to build these libraries?
Yeah, but that's not an inflection point financially in terms of what these businesses are really going to be.
On the capital side, though.
On the capital side it is, but we don't know how successful they're going to be. And then I think a great question is if a year from now Disney has 30 million subscribers, are they going to be valued the same way Netflix is? Or is Netflix going to be valued more like Disney?
So I'll say the answer, no.
Yeah.
So as a betting man, what's your answer, though?
My answer is no. I think you're going to have a kind of a restructuring of the valuation of all of these services.
And that means that the valuation of Netflix comes down materially in your mind? I think it has to.
That was my question. And it
has been.
Has Netflix stock seen its highs for the rest of eternity?
Look, I'm not an analyst. I'm sure you're going to have a bunch of analysts on after the bell today. But I think with all of these players in the business, you're going to have more of a standard of what's a reasonable multiple for these companies and these businesses.
How did the big bulls sort of fend off that criticism that Netflix was that there were going to be it was going to be a crowded field eventually, and they still ran it up there, and they get really nasty.
You have to give them tremendous credit for doing that.
There's no moat there, is there?
Well, I think at this point the moat is
size,
the number of subscribers.
Yeah, that's a slow bleed there, and the moat goes away.
Everybody matures eventually, and we'll see what that means.
But does that mean that the margin, you're going to look at Disney, are you going to look at Disney a year from now with 30 million subscribers, if you think that number is realistic, and say, that's success? Like, what is going to be success for a Disney or a success for an Apple?
In the early stages, success is going to be how many subscribers you have. And that's really been the measure for Netflix all these years. But at some point in time, you're going to have to look at what are the transfer economics. A lot of these legacy media businesses, those were good businesses. And without the type of costs that are involved in these streaming businesses.
So here's my legacy question before you go. AT&T, a lot of debt on that company. There's obviously activists involved now with Elliott Management. What do you think happens?
Not everybody's going to be successful. If I had to bet on anybody, I'd bet on Disney. AT&T, we don't know. We haven't seen anything yet. How harsh is the ultimate outcome of DirecTV for that company?
Right. Although they can sell things that are worth a lot.
You remember one thing, though. They have an existing franchise that is successcul, and that's called HBO.
In Time Warner and HBO.
That's called HBO. So they go into these businesses with an existing success story.
Okay. Matt Blank, it's great to see you this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will be watching Netflix's earnings report this afternoon.
Still to come, Bank of America expected to report just in the next few minutes. We'll have those instant numbers for you and get the street's reaction. Right now, though, as we head to a break, take a quick check of what's been happening in the European markets right now. The DAX is higher, the CAC and the FTSE lower. Higher.
It's a madhouse.
Parents, it's up to half price on all toys at Sainsbury's right now, so you can keep us occupied this half term and even stock up for Christmas. The Sainsbury's up to half price toy sale ends 22nd of October.
Subject to availability at selected Sainsbury's stores, excluding Centrals and Locals, not available online. Valid 16th to 22nd of October.
People have always told me I can be a bit wary of modern things.
Very true.
So when Jane suggested selling the house with purple bricks, I weren't happy.
No, you weren't.
You see, I don't like technology. I don't like the internet. I don't like moving house. I don't like their adverts. I don't like purple.
Luckily, I don't listen to him, and our estate agent Emma were perfect. She gave us her actual mobile number. She was always available.
Fine, they were great. Still don't like purple.
Purple bricks. You'll be totally sold.
Fixed fee payable on instruction or after 10 months. Viewing services cost extra. See website for more details.
Teaching shapes lives. If you're thinking of becoming a teacher, our expert teaching advisors can give you the level of support you need to get one step closer to the classroom. Teaching. Every lesson shapes a life. Search Get Into Teaching. Advisor support subject to eligibility.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and be unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
You're 169 in the queue.
I proposed on the 169. She got off for the next stop.
You're my 169th greatest lover.
The number 169 never screamed going places until now. Get the Toyota Aygo X-Play for only £169 deposit, then £169 a month with 0% APR representative. Just go. Aygo.
0% APR representative on new sales of Aygo X-Play over 48 months. £169 per month. Customer deposit of £169 when proposed and approved via Access Toyota by 31st of October 2019. £3,487 and 50p optional final payment. Subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Conditions apply. Toyota Financial Services.
Chase the sun with TUI to over 40 long-haul destinations. Explore the beautiful beaches of Jamaica, sip margaritas in Mexico, or see the many wonders of Asia. And until the 26th of October, enjoy £150 off per booking. When you fly with us, we'll take you there on one of our state-of-the-art Dreamliner planes. TUI, we cross the T's, dot the I's, and put you in the middle. T's and C's apply. Minimum spend £1,200 and available on selected holidays. See website for details. Atoll protected.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are awaiting results from Bank of America. Let's bring in some voices on what we might expect. Joining us is Ken Leon. He's equity analyst at CFRA, who has a hold rating on Bank of America. Also, our own Mike Santoli is with us as well. And guys, I guess the big question here is net interest income. That this is the bank that's probably most sensitive to any changes in interest rates. So anything that's been happening along those lines, we'll be watching very quickly since the Fed cut rates twice during the quarter.
Absolutely. And, the stock was up 2% yesterday on the back of a strong day for bank earnings in general, and also higher yields and a steepening yield curve. So I do think that almost matters more in the short term for trading as it makes another attempt at $30 a share for B of A.
Ken, why do you have a hold rating on the stock?
So obviously we have lower rates. That means net interest income is coming down. We're going to hear a lot about this on the call. Spreads are narrowing as well. Capital markets yesterday was not a great day. Even though Bank of America is a U.S.-centric bank, things are happening underneath net interest income. Mortgage refinancings, that's affecting fees. Now, this company and management has a stake in the ground. For every 25 basis point cut from the Fed, that's 1% of reduced growth in net interest income. So it's interesting, whether it's 1 or 2% in their guidance on NII, then you got to focus on the other businesses. And you know what? In the last quarter, they had the best performance in equity underwriting IPOs.
Right.
Yesterday was not a great day, and there's a lot of conversation.
Meaning that maybe they're going to outperform once again.
Maybe, or maybe not. IPO proceeds were down 40% in Q3. Possibly that could be one of the negatives that would come out.
What would impress you?
Bank.
What would impress you?
It's the consistency of this business and their ability to take wallet share, both in traditional consumer banking and from wealth management. Wells Fargo did have outflows in wealth management. And again, Bank of America is building local financial centers. That's more akin for the small business growth, not necessarily for someone who can do online banking.
Mike, we learned yesterday that Berkshire Hathaway has requested to be able to buy more of the stock. They're up against that 10% holdership. And in fact, I think it's even drifted above that because Bank of America has been buying in shares.
Well, I think that's the story, right? Yeah. It's not necessarily we want to buy a whole lot more. For sure, it's about, like with Wells Fargo a few years ago, they own a stake, the buybacks are raising their relative position.
Let's get to Wilf. We've got those results that are just hitting the wires now. Wilf, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so it's a beat on the EPS line. It depends whether you strip out this one-off, whether the beat is 75 cents reported compared to an adjusted consensus of 68 cents, or whether it's 54 adjusted reported versus consensus of 51. But either way, that $2 billion impairment charge, still stripped out or not, leads to a bit of an EPS beat. Revenue coming in at $23 billion versus forecast of $22.6 billion. I think the important thing to note, headline on the revenue, is it's essentially flat year over year. JP Morgan's yesterday was up 8%, Citi, Wells Fargo flat, Goldman Sachs was down, and that highlights the general environment we're in for the banks. Now, underneath that, this is an example of a bank that's very tied to the yield curve, but it hasn't been too effective relative to expectations by the yield curve. So the net interest margin came in a little bit better than expected, 2.41%. It was down 4 basis points quarter over quarter, but many of the others yesterday were worse than that. And on top of that, net interest income is better than most of its rivals yesterday because loan growth was strong. So the net interest income came in essentially in line with expectations versus a lot of the others yesterday being a little bit behind. $12.3 billion. It was up 1% year over year. Only JP Morgan yesterday also saw net interest income increase year over year. In fact, Bank of America even has a slight increase in net interest income quarter over quarter, which is impressive, and I don't think any of the others did yesterday. Onto the fee income, the trading is kind of in line with expectations, so they didn't really get the beat in the fixed income commodities and currencies trading that the others did. That was stable year over year. Equities was up about 13% year over year. The beat that they got in fee income, which helps them a little bit, but it's not a huge part of the business, was investment banking revenue. That was up 27% year over year. I mention that particularly for them, even though it's not a huge part of the business, because it does show that Disappointing performance in investment banking for Goldman Sachs yesterday. They were down year over year, tough comps, and they said they had a strong backlog coming into the next quarter. But when someone like Bank of America has such an increase year over year to Goldman Sachs's fall, it definitely highlights the disappointment there. Bank of America up about 1%, had a good day yesterday anyway, alongside the rest of the banks. And this is a decent beat, kind of pulling all the levers that they can. Expense growth as well, coming in where they expected 13.1 billion. So good operational leverage and not seeing as much of an impact to the yield curve as some might have expected.
Yeah, and just some comments from Brian Moynihan, the chairman and CEO, talking about responsible growth, how they were able to grow and refurbish branches and offices, more digital capabilities, all while keeping expenses flat. Ken, that kind of points to some of the things that you were looking at, particularly with investment banking being strong. It looks like they're stealing market share from others.
And they probably did great in debt underwriting, but in equity underwriting, including IPOs, probably did much better than Goldman. Okay. So that's a plus.
Is there anything you see here that makes you think potentially you would upgrade the stock?
We would not.
What would you have to see?
And one of the factors here is that they're very efficient. So their efficiency ratio is about 57%. There isn't much delta to get more improvement there. They're doing smart things to improve the business. But when you look at the outlook for banks, it's very difficult when you got 45, 50% of your net revenue and net interest income.
So you just don't like the banks overall because of what the Federal Reserve and other central banks
I just think it's, strategists will look at this as financials as cyclicals, but when you're cyclicals and, as Joe has mentioned in the past, regulated businesses, and you got the flattening yield curve, it's really tough at this point in the cycle.
Right now, the street likes it. It's up by about 1.4%, and Mike, you mentioned it's on the gains of 2% yesterday.
It's funny when you said what would impress you. My thought was kind of controlling what they can control, and that's literally in Brian Moynihan's quote today, that they're focusing on what's controllable. But a lot that's not controllable is the interest rate backdrop, the growth situation around the world. And I think the premise is they still look cheap, right? Book value is like $27 a share after this quarter, so it's 1.1 times book. If we're back in a market that's going to start to try and get more cyclical and reward companies geared this way, you have this massive buyback that's underway, and they're going to continue to buy back a ton of stock. It's not that exciting, but it sort of supports the stock where it is. And as I said, this is the fifth run to $30 a share in the last 2 years. Right. See if it can crack it once.
Wolf, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to come back and say it now feels like JP Morgan was an outlier to the upside and Goldman Sachs the outlier to the downside in terms of year-over-year revenue growth. JPM plus 8%, Goldman Sachs down 6%. But Citi, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, three giants in this space, all flat, essentially, revenue year-over-year. And that highlights Mike's point. There's not a huge amount going on for the sector as a whole, but the stocks are cheap, they're buying back stock, and so they can continue to pull some levers. The question is, how many more quarters can they pull those levers and that be enough of a driver for the stock price without top-line growth as well?
All right, great. Will, thank you. Just kind of wrapping things up with what we've seen on this. Mike, what else do we need to watch today with earnings? We've got the financials largely in at this point.
Yeah, it still is mostly financial. Believe it or not, the thing to watch is the overseas markets, which have started to act a lot better. If you look at European banks still working, so that's maybe a change in tone. And obviously, we're going to look ahead to Netflix because I think it's a massive. It's a singular company, but it's also a big sentiment tell in terms of how those numbers are received.
And Ken, I'll just ask you finally, too, in terms of what you think, having seen all these banks that have reported at this point, what's your takeaway? Do you have...
Well, the first thing, there's a relief. We haven't had in 15 years 4 banks report on one day. That's over. We still have a buy recommendation on JP Morgan, and we downgraded Goldman Sachs yesterday from a buy to a hold. These great strategic long-term plans, we're not going to see profitability from those areas for a long time.
All right, Ken, Mike, thank you both. And Will, thank you. We'll see you again soon.
All right, coming up, got a big lineup coming your way for the huge.
says our bank isn't tech enough?
Searching for a more memorable short break? Fly from London Heathrow to Cork from $55.99 each way as part of a return trip with Aer Lingus. Step off the plane and into a warm welcome in Cork. Surround yourself with breathtaking coastal views. Soak up the culture of Cork City or head to the colourful town of Kinsale and indulge in the best seafood around. Smart enjoys a short break in Ireland. Smart flies Aer Lingus. Book now at airlingus.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
What if your email let you see a project's entire history and not just the messages sent to you? What if everyone else on your team could see it as well? Then it wouldn't be email at all. Move communication from inboxes to channels in Slack. Instead of seeing a partial set of messages about a project, everyone in Slack sees exactly the same thing and moves work forward faster. Slack. Choose a better way to work. Get started at slack.com.
Time is money. Or so money says. Well, money. I know you like to dictate every hour of every day, add to my to-do list and throw the odd spanner in the works. But not anymore. This is my business, and I run it on my watch. I'm in control now, money. And times are changing. Save time with instant business invoicing, now on the Barclays app. Search Barclays Business and make money work for you.
Must have a Barclays business account. T's and C's apply.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and be unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The B&Q 3 for 2 offer is now on, including an unmissable 3 for 2 on tiles and flooring, like real wood and laminate. So hurry to B&Q. You can do it when you're 3 for 2 it. Excludes cut-to-measure flooring, flooring accessories and underlay. Every third item per single transaction in descending price order free. Offer ends November 3rd. See DIY.com.
China pushing back after U.S. lawmakers advanced a bill favoring Hong Kong protesters. What's at stake when it comes to your investments in the trade war?
Facebook vows to move forward with its crypto efforts despite some key investor departures. The head of Facebook's blockchain efforts and co-creator of Libra, David Marcus, joins us for a news-making interview.
Plus, Democrats battling over taxes in last night's debate. We'll get reaction from Senator David Perdue and talk trade, taxes, and much more as the second hour of Squawk Box begins right now.
Live from the beating heart of business, New York, this is Squawk Box.
Good morning. Welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We're live at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Becky Quick and Joe Kernan. Take a look at U.S. equity futures at this hour in the midst of, we're calling this day 2, 3 of earnings season. Where are we? We're day two of earnings season. Dow looks like it would open down about 34 points right about now. NASDAQ looking to open off about 15 points down, and the S&P 500 looking to open down about 5 points.
All right, in the headlines at this hour, Bank of America beat estimates on both the top and bottom lines in its just released quarterly report. Among the factors boosting the bank's bottom line, a 27% increase in investment banking fees and strong growth in consumer banking. Shares of United Airlines are higher in pre-market trading. The airline reported better than expected earnings and revenue and raised its full-year outlook. Mortgage applications were up 0.5% last week, according to new figures from the Mortgage Bankers Association. Refinancing activity jumped by 4%, but that was offset by a decline in new purchase applications. The average 30-year mortgage rate edged higher by 2 basis points. It's now at 3.92%.
Earnings season in full swing at this point. Joining us right now to talk about what investors can expect is Anastasia Amoroso. She's global investment strategist at JP Morgan Private Bank. Also, Mike Santoli, CNBC's senior markets commentator. Anastasia, you're looking at what's going on, and you think that there's the chance that the markets could really pick up some growth if we continue to see earnings coming in with better than anticipated numbers.
Yeah, I actually think the market currently is not pricing in the growth is going to rebound in 2020. If I look at the average forecast for 2020 GDP, it's about 1.7%. And to really translate into terms that we can comprehend on a monthly basis, it's about level of 50 on PMIs. So you're telling me that PMIs are not going to pick up into next year. That's what the market consensus was pricing in. And I don't think that's quite right. I do think that the monetary policy, which really moved into easing mode, is going to work with a lag. And by the first quarter of next year, by March of next year, we could actually start to see that pickup in PMIs. So if we do rebound from the sub 50 level to something like 53, 54, then that's what eventually is going to drive earnings reacceleration. And, the market really cares about not just the level of earnings, but earnings revisions. And revisions have been cut down significantly. So to the extent that they start to get revised higher as the PMIs come in better, that's the source of upside.
Here's the thing. I agree with you on most of that, but I don't know that you're going to get too many CEOs who are on conference calls saying, hey, we're expecting great things for next year, because they're just uncertain about so many things that are still taking place. Even if the numbers are going to be better, I'm not sure you'll see too many of them sticking out their necks and saying that's the case.
No, I think that's right. I don't think you see that this earnings season. I do think you see that over the next 6 months, but you really have to watch the data rather than the corporate guidance. I think you're right. It's going to be on the conservative side. But I think what is encouraging about this earnings season is that earnings estimates have been cut down. Also, the number of negative pre-announcements is higher than the 5-year average. So it suggests to me that a lot of negative guidance has already been put out there, especially, by the way, for tech companies. So that makes us more encouraged on the potential upside and the potential beats from things like technology, for example. I would also say financials and healthcare are also two other sectors that I think could see upside as well.
Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I think growth expectations that are embedded in the market have been beaten pretty low. So we're at a point, I think, especially through August and again with this little tiny pullback in October, where just normalizing investor positioning and sentiment and growth expectations, I think, gives you a little bit of a tailwind. So the market yesterday kind of suggested that. I mean, you were essentially, United Healthcare, as an example of a stock that just popped huge on, yeah, sure, good numbers, but because it was cheapened and because expectations got very low. So right now, I am pointing also, too, to the rest of the world. And European banks acting better. This idea that yields are lifting from very low levels, if you can believe that that has a little bit of force behind it, it probably does give cover to this idea that, and that's, by the way, I think why the terms of this trade truce don't matter terribly much, because to me, the most immediate concern about intense trade frictions was a hard landing in China, another leg down in global growth. If you have the data turning for the better, it insulates you against that outcome.
You think that's the case even if the China trade deal never actually is finalized or formalized or anything? There's tensions that are still popping up with the U.S. Congress saying they're in support of Hong Kong protesters, and China getting mad about that. So who knows where this goes?
Yeah, it's definitely not a done deal. And I think a lot of the optimism around a mini deal has been priced in, but I would say not enough optimism about actually signing the agreement and getting any sort of grand bargain, I think, has been priced in. But the thing that I would come back to is the election calendar that's going to be upon us. And with the economic data slowing as much as it has on the manufacturing side, I think there is a desire really from both sides to put some sort of a floor underneath this economy. So I suspect that the news flow on the trade front is going to be more constructive.
And then the other thing is, so the Fed, right, cuts twice. Market thinks you're getting another one, maybe a fourth. What was the pain that was extracted from the U.S. economy in exchange for a full percentage point of Fed rate cuts? Arguably not that intense. And so I think the market is trying to see through that and say, we might have gotten a little bit of a freebie here in terms of the domestic economy and what the Fed did in response to it.
Interesting call from Bank of America where they're saying the 60-40 portfolio, 60% equities, 40% bonds is not the way to go anymore because yields are now so low that it's not worth it. You can get higher yielding equities.
Look, I think it's a very, very accurate call because a lot of the equities out there are paying more than the 10-year Treasury yield today. And as Mike was saying, a lot of the growth expectations embedded in the 10-year Treasury yield are actually quite low as well. They're consistent with that 1.7%. So to the extent that we see growth improve, you're not going to be all that well served hiding out in the 10-year Treasury, for example. So I do think that looking for yield in cyclical equities is actually a very interesting proposition. in. And take healthcare, for example. Here's a sector that offers you above market yield, whether you look at U.S. healthcare, whether you look at European healthcare. It has been beaten up quite significantly based, due to some of the regulatory proposals.
I was going to say, in some cases, it's a pretty good thing that it's been beat up because they're worried about changes that are coming from the politicians. And when you look at things like the Democratic debate last night, you'd have to agree that there is a huge risk potential for lots of these names.
Well, here's what I would agree with, that it is very unlikely that either of those sweeping changes are actually going to make it into law. Whether you talk about Medicare for all, whether you talk about drug pricing, these are really big and important proposals. However, the legislative odds of them getting enacted are actually quite low. So when I look at
Elizabeth Warren says she would do what she could with executive order. Like, she will take and run with that.
Well, you can do a lot with executive order on the regulation front, but in order to really pass sweeping changes, you need to have a sweep of both houses of Congress, and that is currently not the base case scenario. If you do get that, then I think we definitely need to readjust our thinking. But at the moment, if I look at healthcare, it is discounting. It is trading at a 20% discount to the market, which is at the depth of some of the fears we had about Affordable Care Act and prior instances of healthcare uncertainty. So a lot of this worst case scenarios in my mind has been priced into these valuations. I would say especially in the pharmaceutical space.
The disclaimer on this whole scenario with growth expectations be where they are for cyclical stocks is the overall market might not necessarily go galloping higher just because the defensive stocks and the kind of traditional growth stocks and tech have been such a big part of the overall index that if a lot of these kind of lagging areas start to perform, it might be at the expense of the stuff that's already done well, but that's not a harm. It's just
Mike, for the second day in a row, I'm starting to see the repo stuff again.
Yeah.
208 today. It's starting to rise despite QE4, if you want to call it that.
It is
in repo.
Tick to the upper end of where the Fed is comfortable with or beyond.
We're sure it's nothing.
The arguments are
Is
that
it okay?
it seems it's linked to the timing of Treasury settlements and Treasury issuance.
Okay.
And so that was the word yesterday. That was the reason that you had this choke.
All right, not to worry.
Honestly.
Yeah, I think there's two things that drove the repo market dislocation last month, which is the coincidence of these corporate tax payments and also the budget deficit. And I think what's really eye-opening here is the budget deficit is continuing to go up. So these sort of funding needs are going to continue to be with us. And by the way, we have forecasted the Fed balance sheet all along. And 2019 was supposed to mark the low part of the Fed balance sheet, always calling for that expansion in 2020. So, I think we have the tools. The Fed has the tools to fix what they're calling the plumbing issue, and I don't think that's the number one market concern.
All right, so just for argument's sake, we have a global oil shock. I don't know why, Iran, who knows? We have global oil shock, big recession. What do we do globally?
You go to treasuries. You go.
No, but what do we use for tools? QE.
Oh, what is the Fed doing? You mean?
Yeah.
What does it finally move
QE
the fiscal needle a little bit?
What does that mean?
Keynesian
Cash for clunkers?
No, you tried that. It almost doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter.
We're done.
Well, I
We're
think
doomed.
It means fiscal response can work even if it's not in highly
the public sector
productive
come up
economic
with the
areas.
demand side of things.
Raise aggregate demand. That's what the Germans should be doing right now.
I think QE is definitely going to be the first response for monetary policy, and I think the Fed would argue that we were not tapped out of those tools, but fiscal side is definitely part of it. I think it's going to be challenging, most likely, to pass something meaningful in infrastructure unless there is economic pain that's sufficient enough to incentivize parties.
We have 1.75% down to zero, by the way, too, from the Fed.
Then we can go below zero.
Well, hopefully not.
Then we have.
I don't think so. To be
1,000
negative interest rate.
Yeah, we go to minus 1,000.
I doubt it.
Mike, good to see you.
That's where you put your money in. That's where you put your money. That's what we had noticed. Put your money in, you get nothing back.
They make mattresses.
Put it in the bank and you get nothing back. That's 100.
We've got an update on what's going on in Hong Kong, and it's important. Embattled leader Carrie Lam forced to deliver her annual policy address by video. This after being heckled by pro-democracy lawmakers on the floors of the city's parliament. In her address, she condemned the violence in the city. She then pledged to adhere to the one country, two systems structure. A little bit of a placation to the folks in Hong Kong. And then said, though, that any acts advocating Hong Kong's independence would not be tolerated. She focused on a policy issue in all of this, which was housing. And she wants to tackle, she says, the unrest, calling it the city's toughest livelihood issue, and blaming it to some degree for the unrest and the protests that we've seen.
Meantime, China's foreign ministry issuing a strong warning to Washington after the House of Representatives passed a package of measures late yesterday backing the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong. China says to expect, in its words, strong countermeasures if Congress chooses to pass the entire bill. I guess, Andrew, you saw the LeBron jerseys over there. Torched by the demonstrators.
In Hong Kong.
So they were able to get Hong Kong. Yeah. I mean, there's jerseys over.
So, you know, for all of the people saying that the Chinese love what's going on, obviously there's another. I mean, this is why.
Complicated, right?
It's complicated. Coming up when we return, the CEO of Volvo is going to be joining Phil LeBeau with us in just a moment. The company making a big announcement on its efforts to become a climate-neutral company. Got details on that next. And then later, you don't want to miss this, the head of Facebook's blockchain project says that Libra is real and that a quarter of its original backers leaving won't change the company's ambitions. David Marcus is going to be our special guest at 7:30 Eastern Time. Squawk returns right after this.
This CNBC program is...
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The 1304 LNER train, Coach C. Taking aunties with cold hands to nephews with warm cheeks in Edinburgh. Remorseful revellers back to their beds in Leeds. Business mums gliding over the Forth Bridge towards adoring toddlers in Newcastle. And a band heading to London to our group of strangers in a tiny pub. This is us. These are our journeys. This is our LNER.
Will cancer affect my sex life?
Your sex drive can disappear. The side effects may stop you.
Your sex life can easily stay.
When you search one question about cancer, you end up with millions of results which contradict each other. For clear and uncomplicated information, come to Cancer Research UK. Visit us online or give us a call on 0808 800 40 40. Cancer Research UK. Together, we will beat cancer.
Carl's All Change Casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school, tears all over her face.
Daddy,
She says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat, but not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch, a dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range. Food Love Stories. Brought to you by Tesco.
It's going to be a bit chilly today. And with the worst of winter yet to reach London, you don't want to come home to a broken boiler. We're with you. So that's why with British Gas Home Care, we've got your boiler covered 365 days a year. We have thousands of engineers on hand to help get your boiler up and running again, and all from just 46p a day. Buy selected home care products online by the 28th of October and get 1 month free. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply. Prices vary by postcode.
Announcing this morning one of the most ambitious plans in the auto industry to try and become carbon neutral by 2040. The automaker is also set to reveal later this morning its first car and its new Recharge lineup. Phil LeBeau joins us right now with the first on CNBC interview. Phil, good morning.
Morning, Becky. Let's bring in Håkan Samuelsson, who joins us to talk a little bit more about the big push for EVs as well as carbon neutral manufacturing. Håkan, I know that you're going to be showing us the XC40 Recharge a little bit later on this morning, but give me some sense of what kind of demand you believe is out there for a fully electric SUV.
I think it's coming. I mean, we started with the twin-engine cars because they don't require the charging network, but it's coming. And an electric car is not just environmental friendly. It also has some other really big advantages. So you have a super response. It's quiet. And I think one of the most important things is you can fuel it at home. I think that is what our customers appreciate with an electric car. So it will be growing numbers.
Yeah, but let's be honest here, Håkan, with low gas prices, relatively low gas prices, certainly here in the United States and in other parts of the world, EV sales, while they are growing, many people look at this and they say the demand is not going to be as great as originally thought. What's your sense?
Yeah, of course, the fuel price is always a certain headwind, but it goes up and down. So I think we have to act, of course, long term. But you should also remember these other advantages with the car, an electric car, quiet, a really good response, and that you can fuel it at home. So, but of course, it's a headwind now in the US with the low fuel prices. But you can see also, I think, a clear development to higher numbers, especially here on the West Coast.
Håkan, where will you manufacture the XC40 Recharge?
It will be manufactured in our factory in Belgium. And the ones for US are built in Belgium and the one for Europe as well. But then we will also produce it in China for the Asian market.
The reason I bring that up is because you guys are in a very unique position in the world of autos where you already are seeing the impact of tariffs for vehicles imported from China. Potentially that could happen with vehicles imported from Europe if the Trump administration follows through with potential threats of tariffs on vehicles coming from there. Have you noticed so far that has dramatically slowed down what you expected in terms of sales here in the United States?
Not really. The only one is the big sedan, which we make in China. Of course, that's difficult now to sell in US with the very high duties. But we have then very luckily opened our factory in Charleston, building a slightly smaller sedan, which has taken that market. So I think we are still growing in a healthy way in the US market, close to 5%. So we are quite happy with that.
How is that manufacturing plant doing down in South Carolina? Are you finding the skilled labor that you need? Because that's long been a complaint for a number of manufacturers that in this tight labor market, finding the workers that they need, that they truly need, is getting tougher and tougher.
No, but we have been very successful with that. So, I mean, we have very good people on board, and we are ready now to, of course, to increase the volumes. And also with this now car line Recharge, where we will sell more of the plug-in versions. We plan to sell more of the S60s made in Charleston.
One last question, Håkan. You spend a lot of time in China. China's a huge market for Volvo. Give us a lay of the land over there in terms of the economy and the consumer.
Yeah, I mean, the economy is definitely slowing down, and you can see that also in the volume car market is definitely down. But against this trend, the premium segment is quite strong and is more or less flat, and we are able to grow with around close to 15%. So against the market, we are growing, I think, with good products, and that we, of course, locally manufacture.
Do you expect the overall market in China to stabilize? It's been trending down over the last 14 months. Are we at a point now where it stabilizes, or do you expect it to continue going lower?
I think it has dropped. I think you will see it a bit flattening out. But I think also we have to understand that China is also going to be a normal market where you have business cycles. I mean, it will go up and down. China cannot just continue with an internal growth. That has never happened on any other market.
Håkan Samuelsson, the CEO of Volvo, joining us today on a big day, guys, where they introduced their first fully electric vehicle, the XC40 Recharge. This is the beginning of a number of automakers saying we're going to roll out more electric vehicles. Joe, back to you.
All right, Phil, thanks. Coming up, the future of Libra. Co-creator and head of Facebook's blockchain efforts, David Marcus, joins us. Here are the futures and where they're trading this hour. Compared to the losses on the Dow, down to less than 30 points, down about 27, as you can see right there, with the S&P giving indicated over about 3.5 lower, and the NASDAQ a little over 11. Squawk Box returns after a break.
We think you would really shine in the Aflac.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its symbols when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Psst, parents, it's up to half price on all toys at Sainsbury's right now, so you can keep us occupied this half term and even stock up for Christmas. The Sainsbury's up to half price toy sale ends 22nd of October.
Subject to availability at selected Sainsbury's stores, excluding Centrals and Locals, not available online. Valid 16th to 22nd of October.
She did it! Her first word! Listen, everyone.
Mama.
Oh, she's lovely.
Mama.
Oh, did you hear that?
Oh.
Savings. Savings account.
Teaching your kids how to save may not be this easy, but you can get them learning good habits and skills from an early age, thanks to the range of children's savings accounts from Yorkshire Building Society. Just another example of real help with real life. Find out more at ybs.co.uk.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Carl's All Change Casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school. Tears all over her face.
Daddy,
She says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat. But not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch, a dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range, Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
It's going to be a bit chilly today. And with the worst of winter yet to reach London, you don't want to come home to a broken boiler. We're with you. So that's why with British Gas Home Care, we've got your boiler covered 365 days a year. We have thousands of engineers on hand to help get your boiler up and running again, and all from just 46p a day. Buy selected home care products online by the 28th of October and get 1 month free. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply. Prices vary by postcode.
Viva Las Vegas. We got news from the Strip this morning. That's the Las Vegas Strip. But MGM Resorts announcing 2 deals expected to bring in billions in cash. Here's what they're doing. They're selling Circus, Las Vegas property, for $825 million to an affiliate of Phil Ruffin. He's the owner of Treasure Island. And the head of MGM's board's real estate committee said the company wants to try to make sure, quote, if and when the next recession comes, we have a fortress balance sheet. By the way, with everybody talking about recession on these conference calls and phone calls, I believe Jamie Dimon, I know that comment was taken a little bit.
That comment was taken. I mean, I couldn't believe the story. He said there's going to be a recession someday. Yeah.
But I think it's more and more part of the vernacular in terms of these discussions separately.
But I think that's not surprising given how long the cycle has gone on. People start looking for the end of these things.
And does he mean a recession or a great recession?
Well,
if someone said there will be another great recession, then I'd sit up and take notice. But if all you're saying is a garden variety recession will happen again at some point in our lifetime.
That's all he was saying, I think.
I think so.
MGM,
that's not the way we're going to.
Let me tell you what MGM's
that
also
headline
doing.
drove me
They are
crazy.
separately,
Totally
and this is probably the bigger news in many ways, they're forming a joint venture with Blackstone to acquire MGM's Bellagio real estate and then lease it back to MGM. That deal would value the Bellagio property at $4.25 billion.
That's Bellagio's a little better than Circus is sort of
it's different.
You're trying to suggest it's down market. What do you really?
Yeah, I am saying it's down market. It's been around for a long, long time. The allure and sort of the newness of it.
Right.
way in the past.
You got to love.
But this guy, the guy who bought it, has done that with properties before.
Right. You got to love the water show at the Bellagio.
Right.
Yes.
Though it's been outdone, I hate to say it. I don't know if you guys have seen it. No, in Dubai. At the Dubai Mall, at the Dubai Mall, they have effectively replicated and upped the ante on what a water show like that looks like.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to Vegas,
amazing.
and I don't like Vegas.
Vegas is kind of. Yeah, I mean, when I went long ago, you know where I stayed at the DI.
The where?
Desert Inn, and that's like
my
so
gosh.
far gone, so long gone now. That
You are like Rat Pack.
like the Rat Pack. It's where Howard Hughes lived on the roof, or lived up on the top floor. Anyway, Bank of America.
I dropped my...
Yeah, and once you drop it, it's like
I can't pick it up
you're almost on a boat, right? It's like,
I just got up and I broke
that's
the thing.
gone. That's gone. Bank of America beat estimates on both the top and bottom lines, and it's just released quarterly report. Among the factors boosting the bank's bottom line, a 27% increase in investment banking fees and strong growth in consumer banking.
They also had growth in commercial lending. I think they were up about 6% there. That stock was up yesterday when we heard the four other banks that came out with pretty strong numbers. So it was already up 2% yesterday. Now you see it up another 2.25% this morning. Still to come on Squawk Box, David Marcus, the head of Facebook's blockchain effort, is our special guest. And then Elizabeth Warren under attack from her Democratic counterparts. We will hear from Senator David Perdue about last night's debate, trade and taxes. Also, in the next hour, we welcome investor Lee Cooperman of Omega Advisors for the hour. We're going to find out where the investing legend is putting his money to work right now and what he'll do if the Democrats win in 2020. Squawk Box will be right back.
UWE Bristol thinks your child's next step should be an exciting one, and that it should start right here on this Wednesday afternoon, when you register them for our open day. Then, on the 2nd of November, they'll come and discover that UWE Bristol gives them more than a university with state-of-the-art facilities, more than academic support to help them thrive, more than real-world connections with practical experiences that complement their studies, and more than a city with the buzz of Bristol. Help them choose more than a degree. Choose a 360-degree experience. To register them for an open day, search UWE Bristol today. After that, anything is possible.
Parents, it's up to half price on all toys at Sainsbury's right now, so you can keep us occupied this half term and even stock up for Christmas. The Sainsbury's up to half price toy sale ends 22nd of October.
Subject to availability at selected Sainsbury's stores, excluding Centrals and Locals, not available online. Valid 16th to 22nd of October.
It's time to do a bit of Debenhams with up to 30% off our favourite coats, knitwear and boots for the whole family, and 20% off throughout home. Shop now, in-store and at debenhams.com.
At first, we were worried about using purple bricks, but since we sold with them, I haven't been able to stop going on about them, have I, dear?
No, love.
I've been telling everyone. Family, friends, that confused guy at the supermarket.
Yeah, you haven't really shut up about that.
But seriously, did I tell you about our purple bricks estate agent, Michael?
I met him too. He was nice.
We could talk to him whenever. Anything we asked, he could do it.
That's enough now,
He
dear.
was brilliant, always available to chat on the phone.
Enough,
I
Robert.
could email him any time of the day or night.
Purple bricks. You'll be totally sold.
Fixed fee payable on instruction or after 10 months. Viewing services cost extra. See website for more details. Searching for a more memorable short break? Fly from London Heathrow to Cork from $55.99 each way as part of a return trip with Aer Lingus. Step off the plane and into a warm welcome in Cork. Surround yourself with breathtaking coastal views. Soak up the culture of Cork City, or head to the colourful town of Kinsale and indulge in the best seafood around. Smart enjoys a short break in Ireland. Smart flies Aer Lingus. Book now at airlingus.com. Offers subject to conditions and availability.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/.
On this morning's movers, Dom Chu joins us. He's got more on that. Dom, what you doing?
All right, so I'm watching all those financials still in focus. Becky, of course, let's take you through some of the early morning movers for the financial institution side of things. We're going to start with shares of U.S. Bancorp just out with results in the last few minutes. Not a lot of huge pre-market volume there, but still 1.5% gains for the super regional bank. It posted a profit and revenue beat, benefiting from, among other things, some higher loan growth. So those shares ones to watch. Next up, we've got another regional, shares of PNC, which are higher by around 1.2% right now, just around 3,000 shares pre-market volume. The big regional bank also posting better than expected profits and revenues. PNC did increase its provision for credit losses, but also saw an increase in lending activity as well. So those shares getting a bit of a boost. And then we'll end on shares of Bank of New York Mellon, which are higher by around 1.5% pre-market, albeit on very, very thin pre-market volume. The custody bank and trust services provider posted an earnings beat, but revenues did miss the mark as fee income did decrease. So Andrew, a little bit of green adding to that positive sentiment. Those banks doing their job for the overall bullish narrative. We'll see if that sticks. Back over to you.
Dom, thank you for that. We're going to pivot right now because this week founding members of the Libra Association met for their first council meeting. 21 members formally signing on. Those included Andreessen Horowitz, Uber, Lyft, Spotify, and Coinbase. But a number of big founding member names also pulled out in the past week. Those include eBay, Visa, PayPal, and Stripe. And joining us right now to talk about all of it and where this is headed, David Marcus, co-creator of Libra and the head of Calibra at Facebook. David, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Really just want to understand more than anything else, this has been what looked like a tough week, given some of the companies that have dropped out, yet at the same time, you did have your first meeting to establish all of this. What does it mean?
Well, I believe that it wasn't, a tough week. I would have rather have all of these companies come with us. And like I said before, I felt that it's great for them to want to join and explore in parts disrupting themselves all the way up until that point. But I also understand and respect that they have shareholders, employees, and stakeholders that they have to respond to. And it was probably the responsible thing at that point in time, given the pressure that they were under, to focus on that. And now we have an association that's 21 members strong. We have a board that's voted in. And since 2 days ago, we finally have an association that has a proper governance structure that will enable us to go address all of the concerns that were raised by a number of regulators and stakeholders around the world. So I think it's a lot of progress this week. And yes, of course, it wasn't great to have all of these companies leave last week. But at the same time, again, I appreciate the fact that they wanted to try to join in the first place and spend all of that time with us.
David, can we talk about some of the pressure that they were under, and therefore I imagine you were under? Senators Brian Schatz and Sherrod Brown sending letters to Visa, MasterCard, and Stripe, effectively saying, if you take this on, and I'm quoting, you can expect a high level of scrutiny from regulators, not only on Libra-related activities, but on all payment activities. And by the way, when we mentioned this on the air to Secretary Mnuchin, as if they were responsible for, as if those senators were responsible, he seemed to suggest that he was also responsible, responsible for companies wanting to back away from this, given his own concerns about the issues.
Well, first, I believe that it's kind of odd that all of this is happening at the stage of this project, because it's a project, it's an idea, it's a white paper, nothing is operating yet. And it's kind of sad in a way to see all of the issues that we currently have with the current system. 1.7 billion people left behind. Even in the U.S., if you want to be part of a modern financial system and your average balance is $1,500, you pay $15 a month, on average 7% to send money cross-border, and the people who need it the most paying the most. And, the fact that we're not even open, or some people are not even open to the idea of exploring how to improve those things for their very constituents is kind of odd to me, because, we're not dogmatic about the approach, right?
Do you think this is about the idea, or do you think this is about Facebook? And let me just read to you, this is the Financial Times. Digital transformation in banking is welcome, but regulators are right to argue that Facebook has yet to make the case for its own e-bucks.
Well, first of all, it's not our own e-bucks, and since Monday, I can't speak on behalf of the Libra Association. We're 1 out of 21, and soon to be 1 out of 100. So that's one. And I believe that as far as Facebook is concerned, we have a duty to our users and our stakeholders to continue innovating on their behalf. We have a platform that reaches 2.7 billion people and 90 million small businesses that are active on our platform, and we need a better system for people to pay. And we can facilitate all of these things. So I think it's our duty to continue to innovate on this. But I understand the criticism as well. And we have to do a lot to demonstrate that we need to be trustworthy, or we can be trustworthy for this. And the one thing I want to stress again is that no one needs to trust Facebook to use Libra and to onboard this platform. You'll have a choice of wallets. You'll have an ability to actually move money around wallets because you'll have interoperability built in at the core, and I think that we owe to at least get down the route of exploring how we address these concerns to solve the very issues that are plaguing so many people around the world.
Which is a worthy goal, digital transformation in banking and the unbanked and everything else. And I'm starting to sort of understand that could be something that Libra could satisfy. But just seeing Andreessen Horowitz involved and thinking about Mark Andreessen and in his efforts in crypto, I was just wondering about you, David. Do you own any cryptocurrency currently? I mean, do you own any Bitcoin yourself?
I've said this for a long time. I started looking into Bitcoin since 2012, and I'm a big fan of Bitcoin and what I see as digital gold.
Totally different, I think, than
totally
Libra.
different.
Yeah,
yes.
And I can see that makes me more comfortable with the coexistence of Libra and Bitcoin, because you're not trying. You're obviously, that's the first thing I know. You're obviously not trying to do the same thing, because there's very few similarities between Libra and Bitcoin, and some of the things that the real Bitcoin advocates love about that technology, or whatever you want to call it, and none of that seems to me to be present with Libra.
So look, if there was a stable, low volatility, scalable version of Bitcoin that we could use today, my life would be so much simpler. We could just focus on embedding that in the Libra wallet.
As time goes by, in the words of Bogey or whomever that was, you think as time goes by, it could become. I mean, the volatility may not always be like this, and they have a pretty good head start. It's 150 billion already. I think Libra is zero.
Well, that's absolutely true, but I believe that Bitcoin is like digital gold, and the problem is if you're a hard-working person here in the United States that sends money back home to support your family, and you send $100, and by the time people can get it out, it's $80, that's a huge problem. And that's why we have to take the hard way to try to build a very high-quality, stable digital asset for people to move money around at a fraction of the cost, and to enable more people to be part of a modern financial system, which I believe we all have a duty to make progress on.
Hey, David, I realize your point that as of this week, this is no longer a Facebook project. This is a joint project between a lot of different companies. But because this was a Facebook creation, a Facebook idea, because of your association, long association with Facebook too, do you think that is going to be something that regulators and lawmakers recognize or acknowledge, or do you think that this is forever going to be a Facebook project in their eyes, and does that matter?
Look, I think it's going to take time, and we're not trying to run away from our shadow. We started this project, but certainly by the time this goes live, we will have such a small governance part of the network piece of it, and the payment system that we're trying to build, and we will be one of the many wallets operating on top of this network. So I think it'll take time for the perception to evolve and to catch up with the reality of the governance system that we've put in place. But I think it'll happen. And I think it'll happen once most of the hard work is behind us, and a lot of large companies from all around the world will become more vocal and build on top of the network. The one thing I want to stress as well is that one does not need to be a member to build on top of the Libra network.
Sure.
And so I think things will change as we make progress addressing the legitimate concerns that were raised by a number of regulators around the world.
Were you surprised to hear Senator Schatz and Senator Sanders come directly after partners who agreed to come with you by saying, okay, if you associate with it, we're going to be focusing on you too and scrutinizing you?
Well, I believe that ideas that are supposed to make things better for a lot of people should at least be explored. And the fact that some people are trying to dissuade people from exploring ideas that are here to make things better for their constituents is probably not the right approach in my book to try to move things forward in the world. But again, this is the reality of a core system that has not changed in 50 years. There's been a lot of fintech innovation at the edges, but the core of the network that moves money around the world, whether it's SWIFT or ACH, hasn't changed in 50 years. And meanwhile, on the internet, you can do group high-definition video calls for free, which was brought in by the internet. And before that, it was the telecom systems where you used to pay $1 a minute for a long-distance call. So things have evolved in all other industries thanks to the internet, but the core of the financial system to move money around hasn't in 50 years. There's probably a reason for that.
Hey, David, I was just sort of thinking philosophically. One of the criticisms and the reason that Libra in certain circles is sort of looked at not as favorably as some other